looking into the sexual offenses has decreased by 8%, rape decreased by 7%, and sexual assault by 12.8%. While a combined conviction for FCS, family violence, child protection, and sexual offenses, known as the FCS, continue to bring perpetrators of sexual offense to book. For the quarter under review, 1,144 cases were presented before court, where 1,189 sexual offenders were sentenced to a combined 25 life terms and 577 years imprisonment. FCS, in collaborations with their partners, have embarked on the quest to create awareness about gender-based violence and femicide. The team will continue to work closely with the relevant stakeholder to intensify gender-based violence and femicide for the related awareness campaign by also participating in endeavors to heighten awareness in encouraging the reporting of the incident. This specialized unit has conducted 118 targeted awareness campaigns. Moving into a robbery with aggravated circumstances, this category includes car hijacking, which is a concern for the province, robbery at residential premises, robbery at business premises, robbery for cash in transit, bank robberies, truck hijacking. We have seen a reduction of 6.3%. Kidnapping, which is a topic or a heading which, when we bring it to the public, it is raising some panic. Kidnappings have since increased by 2.1% during the period under review. The increase is a concern. With the effort we are putting, we have integrated our multidisciplinary approach with our National Anti-Kidnapping Team, the Provincial Organized Crime, the E2 project for the eyes and ears. Here I'm referring to the security industry, of which the E2 project, it is, of course, coordinated by Business Against Crime South Africa. For the same period, they have arrested 751 suspects out of 405 cases. Looking into the contact-related crimes, this category recorded a reduction by 9.4%. And of course, there are two crimes reported under this category, which is arson, malicious damage to property. Moving forward, for property-related crimes, we have seen a decrease by 7.8%. In this category, you'll find burglary, residential burglary, business theft of motor vehicle, theft out of motor vehicles, and the stock theft. Then we are now looking on the other serious crimes. The other serious crimes category has recorded a decrease by 4.8% for the quarter under review. And of course, this category comprises of crimes such as theft, not mentioned elsewhere, commercial crimes, of which it is a challenge in the province, and shoplifting. Crimes detected as a result of a police action. This category of a crime detected as a result of a police action has increased by 13.1% for the period under review. I must just indicate that the increase, it is a positive upward trend as we have to detect more. There are 4 offenses in this category. This is illegal possession of firearms and ammunition, drug-related sexual offenses detected as a result of police action, drunken driving or driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Honorable Chairperson and members, our collective effort as a Gauteng Law Enforcement Agency, integrated governmental programs, and our community is paying as we see positive result with a notable improvement as we move forward week in, week out with Operation Shanyela 2 and of course, integrated governmental response, which we know as IGR. Let me take this opportunity to highlight successes achieved for Operation Shanyela 2. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, the total number of arrests for Operation Shanyela for the period under review is 39,072, of which 12,620 were illegal immigrants, 157 arrests is for murder, 267 arrests is for robberies, 2,161 arrests is for assault GBH, and 1,811 arrests for assault common. We have seen 6,829 suspects arrested for drug-related offenses. 5,583 suspects arrested for driving under the influence of liquor or alcohol or drugs. 143 suspects arrested for illegal possession of firearms and ammunition. We are, of course, have noted recoveries with 308 firearms, of which it includes, amongst others, 15 rifles and 15 shotguns for the period under review. We have, of course, managed to recover 4,394 various kinds of ammunition, 247 dangerous weapons, 213 hijacked or stolen motor vehicles, motorcycles, which we have since recovered. The drugs which we have recovered is 1,630 kilograms in various kinds of drugs, and of which the cables, which is a problem for essential infrastructure, we have since recovered 206 kilograms. Liquor, which is a generators of the crime, we have since closed 1,278 liquor outlets with a confiscation of the liquor, which is over 139 million liters. 287,125 items of a counterfeit good or illicit goods with the estimated value of 100 million. So maybe some of the people could not believe. I remember when I was presenting to the high density meeting which we have on a weekly basis, accounting to the National Commissioner. Last week we had over 10 million of the items which we have since confiscated. These successes and recoveries are only for Shanyela operations and do not include day-to-day operational successes. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the anti-gang detectives' conviction. We know that the gang-related cases in our province is a problem. Once more again, honorable Chairperson, members, we know that the province is also affected by gang-related cases. Allow me to reflect on one notable case for the conviction achieved by the anti-gang unit detectives, which has just happened recently. On the 25th of February, which is this year, 2026, the Johannesburg High Court sentenced Raven Akabuti or Buti Abrahims to 3 life imprisonments and a combined 45 years imprisonment for 3 counts of murders, 3 counts of attempted murders, and 4 possession of unlicensed firearms and ammunition on Langlaagte case. In this case, what happened, On the 1st of March 2024, a group of young men playing dice on the street in Rivali, which is in Langlaagte policing area, were killed during a drive-by shooting. 3 more victims were injured. The incident was gang-related, and therefore the province anti-gang unit detective took over the investigation. The suspect was arrested a month later, and he remained in custody until the case was finalized and was successfully prosecuted. In conclusion, or as I conclude, I want to take this opportunity to appreciate all our stakeholders, our private security industry or security industry, the social partners, community-based structures, as well as the community at large, for always willing to work together with the law enforcement agency in a fight against crime. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, I also want to put emphasis and acknowledge the positive impact that the integrated governmental response, which is called IGR, led by MEC Mamabolo, with the approach we have, or with this approach we have seen our efforts regain community trust and enhance service delivery to the residents of Gauteng. It is a whole government approach which remains the future of policing within the province. I want to appreciate all government departments once more again in the province for joining hands with the law enforcement agency in these endeavors of fight against crime. Honorable Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee, allow me to hand over to Provincial Crime Register Brigadier Mpho Chakalani to present to you the comprehensive crime picture of the second quarter 2025-2026 financial year. As I leave the podium, I would like to leave you with a quotation from H.G. Wells, who once said, "Several notable figures and sources have articulated the concept that crime is a collective societal issue that impacts everyone, not just direct victim. So let's gear up on the integrated crime violence prevention strategy known as ICVPS. As we say, siyavuma, as the strategy have been approved by Parliament in 2022. I thank you.
Thank you. Maybe, PC, as part of our discussions going forward, it will be prudent that we also just appreciate the SONA pronouncement by the President around the issue of the deployment of the army. I think when we deal with the anti-gang report, anti-gang unit report, and the illegal mining report, I think in our next coming meetings, we might have to now start talking around the issues around the army. The number of concerns that have been raised, misunderstanding on how the army will be deployed. It's something that we might need to clarify, the citizens of Gauteng on. There are other people who have this image of the army doing patrols in the streets and so on. And that was not my understanding of the army, but the army, so it's something that we need to engage on as we are preparing for the things. I didn't want us to have a dead silence, maybe just have that.
Or the members of the South African National Defence Force Gauteng included in a fight against illegal mining and gang-related. We have, of course, since the 18th of February, got the deployment in the province. We have since started working with them. There are considerable successes. If I recall, in one of the operational activities, they were deployed in Bundu Inn Extension 11, which is a Mthombeni policing precinct. That Bundu Inn is just adjacent to Sporong informal settlement. As the Sporong informal settlement, the illegal mining is not necessarily taking place there. We also deployed them on Shaft 9 in Krugersdorp, where we have arrested quite few individuals for illegal. We have recovered Pendukas in there. Maybe lastly is that the army, in terms of what is signed off and what was presented yesterday, I was in the Board of Commissioners. Though Gauteng, we are next to head office for the South African National Defence Force, maybe hence the deployment have taken, immediately. The signed off by the President is for the duration of 12 months, which is from the 1st of March, and of course, it will be preceded by the other month. When you count, it will be 12 months. The main aim for the army is not to, I would say, to do the police work, is to back up the South African Police Service. Let's say we are having cordon and search, section 13.7 in the hostel. In that way, our plan will outline as the Defence Force has to make sure that they have to reinforce and make sure that there is a safety around the members of the South African Police Service. I should think I'll leave it there, Chairperson, and other issues will take it as time goes on. And my apologies of not including it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm certain we'll get more of the progress and the work done. It is just our understanding that we need to allay the fears of the citizens of Gauteng about the SNDF deployment. Most of the people, there's an incident that happened in Alexander during COVID. It's one of the incidents that usually gets cited. So it's important that we do allay the fears of the citizens. Over to you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair. It seems like we're still having some technicalities in terms of connecting to project the presentation here. Are you? Yeah. My apologies on that. Good morning, Honorable Chair. Let me also acknowledge the presence of all honorable members. Honorable Chair, allow me, for the sake of time, to say all protocol observed. Honorable Chair, this morning I will be giving a presentation on the third quarter crime statistic for the province covering the period October to December 2025, which is compared with the same period of 2024. Nationally, the crime statistics was released 2 weeks ago by the Minister of Police. This morning, I will solely focus on Gauteng province, just to zoom into and unpacking selected offenses as well as the station and the district. Honorable Chair, I believe with you, you have a long vision, but let me ease your anxiety. I will only be focusing on selected slides just to make up the short version. With the slide, Honorable Chair, project the scoreboard, what we call scoreboard of Gauteng. However, we are showing it slightly different for this quarter. If you can see here, just to give a little bit of interpretation of the slide before I go into details. These are our usual comparative period whereby we compare 2025 with 2024, October to November, to give the differences as well as the percentage changes. The last 5 columns will reflect the district, meaning with all the recorded counts for the current period, as well as the previous period for comparison. With this one covering the district, meaning an example with 1,536 people that were murdered in Gauteng for Q3, each district will show how many for each district in terms of the total count. So to say, this reflects the actual number, not the percentage change. However, take note of the color coding, where it's highlighted in green, that will reflect for that particular offenses, the district has shown a decrease. Where there is a red for that particular offense, that specific district had an increase for the period under review. Getting into it, Honorable Chair, for Q3, Gauteng overall, their contact crime, we have reduced by 9% overall, with 4,389 counts less. All offenses reported under the category had a decrease, with the exception of attempted murder, whereby we have reported 119 counts more, reflecting 6.5%, with all the district having an increase, with the exception of Dzanibe, with 134 in total of attempted murder that they have recorded. Going back to the offenses in terms of the interpretation, murder, as I indicated, 1,536 people were murdered in Gauteng for Q3, which reflect a decrease of 205, 11.8% from 1,741 that were recorded previous year. With sexual offenses, overall we decreased by 8%. Assault with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm, we also saw a reduction of 12%. Common assault, a reduction of 11.5%. Common robbery, a reduction of 5.7%, with the district of Johannesburg as well as Western having an increase. And then robbery with aggravating circumstances. Overall, as a province, we decreased by 6.3%, with only the district of Western whereby they had an increase for that specific offenses. When you look at the subcategories of sexual offenses as well as robbery aggravating, those offenses are already covered or included under the contact crime category. However, we are showing the offenses reported under those subcategories. Starting with sexual offenses, the rape decreased by 7%, with the district of Dzanibe as well as Western having an increase for rape. Sexual assault, overall reduction of 12.8%, with Western only having increased while Ekurhuleni stabilized. Attempted sexual offenses, overall we reduced by 1 count, with district of Johannesburg and Dzanibe having an increase of attempted sexual offenses, and then contact sexual offenses as a province we decreased by 9 counts, with only the district of Dzanibe having an increase of contact sexual offenses. Now when we move over to robbery, aggravated subcategory, carjacking for the province we decreased by 0.9%, with the district of Tshwane as well as Western having an increase. Robbery at residential premises, we also saw a reduction of 10.3%, with only the district of Dzanibe having an increase. Robberies at non-residential premises, the province decreased by 15.7%, still with Dzanibe having an increase. Overall, the trio crime, which cover the 3 offenses, which is carjacking, both robberies at residential and non-residential, we saw a decrease of 7.3% in total, 433 counts less, with all the districts having a reduction of the trio crime, with the exception of Western. Now the cash in transit, in all total, for Q3, the province, we had 13 incidents compared with the previous period. We saw an increase of 5 counts, with the district of Ekurhuleni, Tshwane, as well as Western having an increase, Johannesburg a decrease, while Dzanibe on stabilization. No bank incidents were reported for quarter. However, last year we had 1 from Ivory, hence we saw a reduction of 1 count. All districts had no incidents of bank robbery for this particular period. Truck hijacking, the province decreased by 10.4%, with Tshwane as well as Western having an increase. Moving over to contact-related, covering both the arson as well as malicious damage to property, with arson increasing by 6 counts, with the district of Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg, and Sedibeng having an increase for that particular offences. Malicious damage to property decreased by 9.6 as a category. All districts had a decrease. As a result, the contact-related decreased by 9.4% as a category. Moving over to property-related, the property-related as a category decreased by 7.8%, with burglaries at non-residential premises decreasing by 16.1%, at residential premises decreasing by 11%. Theft of motor vehicle also decreased by 2.7%, with the district of Sedibeng as well as Western having an increase. Theft out of motor vehicle decreased by 1.6%, with the district of Johannesburg having an increase. Stock theft overall reduction of 36%, with all the district having a reduction for stock theft. Other serious crime, theft general or all theft not mentioned elsewhere, decreased by 13.1%. All the district reported a reduction for theft general for Q3. Commercial crime, which is considered the third highest contributor toward the 17 community reported. For this offense, we have seen a consistent increase over the period of time in Gauteng, which is considered as one of the stubborn crime in the province. We have seen an increase of 4.6%, additional 579 counts for the quarter, with all the districts having an increase with the exception of Sedibeng, where a decrease was recorded. Shoplifting, an increase of 1.2%, additional 39 counts. All the districts, with the exception of Tshwane and Western, had a reduction. Overall, 17 community reported, which cover all the 4 categories, meaning contact crime, contact-related, property-related, as well as other serious crime. As a province, we decreased by 7.6%, with 8,253 counts less. All the district manages to have a reduction of the 17 community reported for Q3. Now, when we move over to crime detected as a result of police action, for this category, normally it's not the crime that are reported by the community. However, this is a category whereby it's detected by the direct action of the police, meaning the positive sign will reflect the activeness of the police on the ground with regards to intelligence during operation as well as the roadblock, because it reflects all the confiscation as well as the arrest. So when we start with illegal firearm and ammunition for Q3, there was a reduction of 16.6%, 187 counts less, with all the districts having a reduction. Drug-related, an increase of 8.5%, driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, an increase of 27.6%, sexual offenses detected as a result of police action, a decrease of 9.4%, with 44 counts less. The only district that decreased with this particular offense is Sedibeng. And then the category itself of the crime detected as a result of police action, we have seen an increase of 13.1%, with all the district overall having an increase. While I conclude the slide, the kidnapping for the province increased by 2.1%, additional 52, with the district of Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Western having an increase. Usually we put the slide of the crime ratio. The purpose of the slide is to show the comparative of crime rate across the province in relation to time over period, so and including or bringing into focus the population side. The unit of measure in this case will be population, the person, hence we are normally computing the contact crime, which include murder, attempted murder, assault with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm, common assault, as well as common robbery. Overall, what we see here on the screen is that we have seen a reduction of the crime ratio overall for all these offenses. This mainly interpreted as the fewer cases that were reported over a period of time in relation to per 100,000 population that were affected. So meaning the murder rate, rape, attempted murder, assault with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm, common assault and robbery with the exception of attempted murder. There were fewer cases in relation to those specific offenses that were reported when we compare to the previous year, meaning 2024. With overall contact crime, which is covering murder, attempted murder, sexual offenses, common assault, assault GBH, common robbery, robbery with aggravating circumstances, that category overall. Over 175 counts what were reported nationally, Gauteng contribute 25.4% of that, even though we still have, we've seen a reduction of 9.4. With contact crime, over 3 months of the quarter, October, November, December, we have seen a reduction throughout 3 months of the quarter, with all the districts having a decrease. The three districts that are considered to be the heavyweights of the province in terms of the contact crime are Johannesburg contributing 38% towards the overall figure of the province, that 44,540, Johannesburg account 38% of those. And then the second highest contributor to that figure is Ekurhuleni with 23.9% and Tshwane with 23.3%. We do also have a top 40 of the contact crime. Honorable Chair, I will not go through the list. However, I will highlight that from the top 40, 11 of those also feature in the national list of the top 30 for quarter 3 as the station that we identified with most volumes in relation to contact crime. Just to give a summary of all these top 40, 28 stations that are reflected here had a decrease and only 11 of those had an increase for overall total top 40. When we move over to domestic violence crime, here we are reflecting people that are having or are in sort of domestic relationship, ranging from marriages, relationships, people that are sharing an accommodation, as well as people who are staying together. So in total, Gauteng, we had 9,595 cases that were linked to domestic violence. In that 9,595, when you look at the contribution per district, 38% were from Johannesburg, and both Ekurhuleni and Tshwane account to 23% of those, and lastly West Rand as well as Sedibeng, they account 8% of those domestic violence related crimes that were reported in the province for quarter 3. When you look at specific offenses that were as a result of domestic violence in Gauteng, in relation to contact crime, 4,995 of the common assault that were reported for Gauteng were as a result or linked to domestic violence. The second highest offense whereby the DV also play a role in Gauteng is assault with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm, with 1,990 of those. And the third highest is malicious damage to property with 1,737. And then just to zoom into murder, attempted murder, as well as rape, those that were linked to domestic violence. With murder, of all cases that were reported under murder in quarter 3 for Gauteng, 24 of those were linked to domestic violence. Attempted murder is 57 and rape is 166. Just to bring your attention, Honorable Chair, you will notice that this time around we did not include disaggregation according to gender, male and female. It's because we are still sorting some data integrity issue internally. But once that is sorted out, the information will bring to the forum back again. Murder, we have seen a reduction throughout 3 months of the quarter, which was more notable in the December period with 137 counts less, with all the districts having a reduction, with the exception of Tshwane having additional 37 counts, an increase of 21%. With the contribution of the district out of 1,537, 37.9% of those were from Johannesburg, with Ekurhuleni taking 31% of all total murders that were reported in the province. When you look at the causative, the motives behind the murders that were committed in Gauteng, we took a sample of 83.2%, meaning from 1,536 counts that were reported, we analyzed 1,277 to establish the motive behind all the murders that were committed in the province. We established that 200 of those argument misunderstanding still persists to be the major contributor towards the matter in the Gauteng. Those are the social-related matters. Vigilantism with 100, robbery-related, these are the matters committed during the robberies with 80, retaliation with 49, tax-related with 32, hijackings with 20, illicit mining with 15, just to highlight gang-related with 14. To highlight the other phenomenon which contributed mainly to the increases of murder in Gauteng. In Gauteng, as PCS indicated, total of 10 police officials were killed during the period. Just to break down that 10, 4 of those were on duty and 6 were off duty. The other phenomenon that still persists to be a problem is the issue of multiple murder, meaning in one incident, more than one victim could be killed in that incident. Just to have a breakdown of that, in total of 69 dockets that were open, it resulted in 166 victims being murdered. When you look at those, the lowest 3, which is the case of 12 victims. This was one that was all over the media, whereby in Atteridgeville, 12 victims, including a 3-year-old that were killed, as well as the 9 victims in Bekesdal, and then with additional attempted murder 10, and then 5 victims in Brockrospruit with additional attempted murder of 2. The one in Atteridgeville, the additional attempted murder is 30. So all these 3 are related to tavern killings that should be of concerning in the province. And then the rest is indicated as on the screen. And then with regards to farming community, we had one whereby the victim reside in the farm, particularly it was in the Western District, Western area, whereby it happened during the robbery incident. When you look at the places where this murder took place, from the same sample size, the commonly place where these murders took place in Gauteng for Q3, it was established to be public place such as street, open field, parking. Remember with this one, we included whereby the bodies were discovered on the street. Hence, it's also contributed to that. In total, it's 794. The second most place where this incident took place is residence of the perpetrator and victim, meaning the place known either to the victim or the perpetrator with 282 liquor outlets we have seen from the previous slide. The 3 cases that I have indicated, all 3 took place at taverns. So also play a role there with 68 counts for place of occurrence. Looking at the instrument frequently used, firearms still persist to be the commonly used instrument during the commission of murder. With the same sample, Honorable Chair, let me also reiterate on this one again. This number reflected here reflect the number of victims that were killed, not necessarily the number of firearms that were used, because one firearm in one incident, it can kill more than one person. So in total, 667 people were killed by firearm. And then knife with 146, and sharp instrument with 48, body parts with 36. We do have a top 40 of our murders. Just to highlight in summary, the top 8 of the station appear in the national list without mentioning the station. 19 of those decrease and then 19 of those increase with 2 on stabilization. Rape, we have seen an increase as a province of rape in October, while November and December there was a reduction, with the district of Sedibeng as well as Western having an increase for rape, while Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, and Tshwane had a decrease of rape. Those are the heavyweights having a decrease of the rape, with the Johannesburg contributing 35.6% and Ekurhuleni 26.1%, Tshwane 21.2%. Where did all this rape incident took place? So with the sample of 63.7, meaning from 2,140 counts, we drew 1,364 to determine the place where all this incident took place in Q3. So residents of a perpetrator or victim, 968, public place such as street, open field, etc., with 303 liquor outlets with 18, agriculture land, farm plotting, and small holding with 4. Top 40 of the rape, with 6 of those, the top 6 have been featured in the national list. Overall, the 15 stations that feature in here had a decrease 2 on stabilization, and in total, 23 indicated an increase of rape for quarter 3. Carjacking, October, November, as a province, we have seen a reduction, while in December, there was an increase of 22%. Looking at the district, both the district of Tshwane and Western have an increase of 19 and 26 respectively. In terms of the contribution of the district towards the overall figure of carjacking in the province, most volumes are coming in from Johannesburg with 37%, followed by Ekurhuleni with 28.3%, and Tshwane with 22.6%, Sedibeng 7.2%, while Western contributing 4.8%. Honorable Chair, we do have a top 40 of the station that contributing mainly towards carjacking in the province, while 21 of those feature in the national list, meaning 70% of the national list top 30 are alone from Gauteng, the top list. So in total, 15 stations recorded an increase and decrease, and 25 recorded an increase. Robberies at residential premises across a reduction of October, November, December, making up the quarter, with only district of Sedibeng having an increase by 4 counts, 2.8%. Looking at the district contribution, Johannesburg contributed 32.4%, followed by Ekurhuleni with 28.3%, while Tshwane 24.8%, Sedibeng 7.8%, and Western with 6.8%. Honorable Chair, we do also have a top 40 for robberies at residential premises, with 15 of those featuring the national list for quarter 3. Robberies at non-residential premises, a reduction throughout 3 months of the quarter, October, November, December, with the district of Sedibeng having an increase of 8 counts for robbery at residential premises, while all other districts have a reduction. The highest reduction in terms of overall volumes is Ekurhuleni with 99 counts. The contribution, Johannesburg with 37.2, Ekurhuleni 27.6, Tshwane with 19.3. We do have a top 40 of robberies at non-residential premises, with 19 of those feature in the national list, with 3 on stabilization and 3 having an increase from this list of top 40. Robberies of cash in transit, there was an increase during the month of October, November, while December we stabilized. Looking at the district, all the 3 districts have an increase. Each district increase of those that reflected an increase had an increase by 2 counts, while Sedibeng reduced 1 count, Johannesburg on stabilization. The proportional contribution of each district towards that 13 counts, Ekurhuleni accounting 38.5%, both Johannesburg and Tshwane 23.1%, and Western 15.4%. When you look at the method of execution used during the commission of CIT, in that 13, there were 2, which is vehicle on the road, while the armored vehicle was targeted while it was on the road. Usually with this method, they target the vehicle while it's still on the road, either by shooting the tires or aim at the side of the driver, so that when the vehicle eventually comes to a halt, that's when they will be able to target. In most cases, for this one, the explosive are used. And then cross pavement, they target the armored vehicle while it's still stationary. So even with this one, although it's not common as the AV on the road in terms of the explosive, while we focus on the distribution in terms of the AV on the road, looking at the district that were affected is the Ekurhuleni having a total of 5 and Tshwane 1, and then the cross pavement in terms of the breakdown of the district, Johannesburg taking 3 of those, Tshwane 2, as well as Western. Looking at the companies that were affected, FCS with 6, G4S with 1, and Easy Cash with 6. Truck hijacking. Truck hijacking, October, November, we had a reduction, while in December, additional 5 counts were recorded. Looking at the district of West Rand having additional 10 counts and Tshwane with 7. The reduction, Johannesburg decreased by 24, Ekurhuleni by 18, and Sedibeng 1. The contribution mainly from the 3 major districts, which is Ekurhuleni by 34.1%, Tshwane 21.5%, and Johannesburg 21.1%. Top 40 of the truck hijacking station, 23 of those stations feature in the national list, meaning 76% of the station that is making up top 30 of the national are alone coming from Gauteng. With that top 40, 11 stations indicated a decrease, 1 on stabilization and 20 decrease, and then 28 of those stations indicated an increase of truck hijacking for Q3. Kidnapping, we have recorded an increase of kidnapping throughout 3 months of the quarter, with October increasing with 15 counts, November 24, and December 13. Only the district of Ekurhuleni and Sedibeng having a decrease in terms of this particular offense, while increases Johannesburg with 58 counts, West Rand with 22, Tshwane with 17, contribution mainly coming from the 2 districts, which is Johannesburg with 39.4% and Ekurhuleni with 26.1%. When you look at the circumstances that were around this kidnapping, from the sample of 2,503, basically we sampled 98% of the kidnapping that were reported. So from that, 1,352 were as a result of hijacking and attempt. This number is high, Honorable Chair, mainly because remember with the hijacking, they usually take the driver or the owner of the car with. So while they're still driving, that moment whereby the person is deprived the movement, the freedom to move, we consider it as kidnapping. Hence, you will find the number, both kidnapping and carjacking, coincide in most of the cases. If the kidnapping goes high, basically it affects our carjacking as well. The second circumstances that were revolving around this kidnapping in the province is robbery related with 445, rape related with 122, where ransoms were demanded is 138, extortions with 16, human trafficking with 62. Honorable Chair, we do have a top 40 of the station with 27 stations in national, feature in the national list, meaning 98% of the station that is making up the national list, all those stations are alone coming from Gauteng. In terms of the increases, decreases, and stabilization, 6 stations indicated a decrease, 5 on stabilization, and 29 had an increase. Property related, this is the category that is covering all these offenses that are reflected. We have seen a reduction in October, November, and December for property related, with all the districts having a reduction. In terms of the contribution of this district towards the provincial figure for Q3, District of Johannesburg contributed 33.7, followed by Tshwane with 29.4, and Ekurhuleni with 23.1%. The top 40 of our property related, with 11 of those featuring the national list. In terms of the summary performance, the 24 stations indicated a decrease, and 16 of those had an increase for Q3 in terms of property related. Just to conclude my presentation, Honorable Chair, is just to give the overall performance of the district, including the province, in relation to the increases, decreases, and stabilization out of 17 community reported. When you look at Gauteng for Q3, out of 17 community reported, we had an increase of 4 offenses, which is attempted murder, arson, commercial crime, and shoplifting, whereas the rest of other offenses, meaning the 13 of those stations, 13 offenses had a reduction. Looking at the district of Tshwane increased 3 offenses, which is murder, attempted murder, as well as commercial crime. 14 offenses had a reduction. Both the district of Ekurhuleni as well as Sedibeng increased overall 4, while 13 of those had a decrease. West Rand as well as Johannesburg, overall 6 offenses had an increase during the period, and 11 of those decrease for Q3. With that being said, Honorable Chair, I thank you.
Thank you. That was quite efficient. Can we then get to the progress reports, so that then we engage them jointly? And maybe whilst they are preparing, it's just to inform the meeting that we might have a small break to have a ceremonial signing of the MOU with the Gun-Free South Africa, as soon as we almost done with the stats discussion. And then we'll get on to the other business of the meeting. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning to yourself, Honourable Chairperson, honourable members of the committee, the Provincial Commissioner, the senior SAPS management, senior government officials, all protocols observed. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to present to you in terms of your requirement on the progress report relating to Gauteng Province for Q3 on the following aspects in terms of illegal mining, gang-related violence, human trafficking and kidnappings, vigilantism, second-hand goods dealers and scrapyards, the recovery of firearms, and then lastly, in terms of school and health facility safety. So we'll start with the first aspect, deal with in terms of our interventions employed to curb illegal mining in the province. Chair, previously we indicated we had 26 policing precincts. There has been some change in terms of these. In terms of West Rand, there's still 8 police precincts that is problematic in terms of illegal mining. Ekurhuleni district, it is 9. You might see there that there's the exclusion of Randpark, which was previously, but it has been replaced by Actonville, which seems to be coming out as problematic area. And in the Johannesburg district, there's 1 less. It's now 6 with the removal of Dobsonville, and Sedibeng still have the 2. So in total, there's 25 of these priority policing precincts for illegal mining, over 4 of our 5 policing districts, which excludes Tshwane. In terms of our interventions, I'll not read through the slide. Suffice to say that we still have, in terms of a multi-layered approach from our different organizational levels. When we look at station level, which have intensified high visibility operations, targeted deployment of resources, and identified illegal mining hotspots. This is augmented also by district level operations in support of the stations and surrounding stations. At provincial level, it's the continued functioning of the Prof Joint's Priority Committee for the planning and evaluation of all the provincial illegal mining operations in terms of our NCCF instruction. On the next bullet is also the special combat operations, which are furthermore launched upon receipt of tactical information, and that includes also the deployment, as was indicated previously by the Provincial Commission, and now also again the SANDF, the DPCI, the Metro Police Departments, Gauteng Traffic Police, our SAPS drone unit, the SAPS and the DCSA wing, as well as the public order policing units. There's also intervention from national level. The deployment of our SAPS national specialized units are done on request to support the Valamgodi operations, and that includes role players as the National Intervention Unit, our Mobile Operations Unit, and the Special Task Force. And these deployments are then also done in according to the 5-pillar approach of the SAPS. When we look at operational activities for the period under review in terms of illegal mining, operations conducted were 45, awareness campaigns 6, visit to mines and diggings was 7, and searches at mines 3, giving us a total of 61 operations through the quarter, focusing solely on illegal mining. In terms of successes achieved, undocumented persons arrested for this period is 532, illegal dealing and liquor is 8, drug-related crime is 25, and possession of firearms and ammunition is 1, giving us a total arrest of 566 for this quarter pertaining to illegal mining activity. Also with these operations, Chair, it is going with confiscations. I'm not going to read through all of the confiscations, maybe just to highlight 7 firearms were recovered, precious metals in grams, over 45,000 grams that were recovered, and then 282 pandukas and some other equipment that is also utilized by the illegal miners in the execution of their operations. We also know that the DPCI is responsible for addressing level 3 to level 5 of the criminal value chain in terms of illegal mining. They sharpened their intelligence-led targeting of illegal mining syndicates. They also strengthened the financial disruption with the asset forfeit unit, as well as intensified multi-agency operations. They maintained also the border risk management and priority case oversight, while expanding their capabilities through enhanced surveillance. Additional interventions include stronger syndicate disruption efforts, closer coordination with the National Prosecuting Authority, improved forensic support, as well as targeted protection of critical infrastructure. Notable key interventions at the bottom of the slide is they introduced several new interventions, as well as advanced surveillance technologies, expanded investigations into the explosive supply chains, and also strengthened cross-border intelligence cooperation. They also adopted and enhanced data-driven analytics to better map illegal mining hotspots and support targeted operational planning. In terms of the financial asset and tracing successes, preservation and forfeiture successes, there's 3 notable ones that were included in this presentation. The first one is in the Midrand area, where cash and gold nuggets the preservation order were obtained to the value of 781,000. In Benoni, as part of Project Greedy, gold were also forfeited to the value of 553,700 rand. And lastly, in the Sandringham area, gold and cash were retrieved by way of a preservation order of 309,900. The total value of those 3 instances is over 1.6 million rand in terms of preservation and forfeiture successes. Other successes that has also been obtained by the DPCI in their attempts to address illegal mining. There's a number of stations. I will not read through all of them. I'll highlight 1 or 2 of them, and there's also indication of the arrest. In the Boyson's case, where gold-bearing material was seized with 4 arrests. Then towards the middle of the slide, the Amalgam with the estimated value of 300,000 rand. There was 1 arrest, also Amalgam with an estimated value of 7 million rand with 1 arrest. Further Amalgam with the estimated value of 30 million rand, so there was 7 arrests. And then lastly, also 2 arrests for Amalgam to the value of 800,000. That total value of the seizures is over 38 million, with 17 arrests by the DPCI over the period under review. Chair, that concludes the portion in terms of illegal mining, and we will move on to the next item in terms of gang-related crimes. You understand, as we previously reported, that the 5-pillar approach is used also in terms of combating gang-related crime in the province. I will touch on each of the pillars as we go forward, as well as what the responsible components are doing in terms of their responsibilities. In terms of intelligence gathering, our pillar 1, the hotspots is highlighted there, being Boysons, Eldos, Ennerdale, Langlaagte, Lenasia, Mohlakeng, including Toekomsrus, Moffatview, Orlando, including Noordgesig, Randpark, and Safari. We've also broken it down in terms of the districts, which of the gangs are prevalent in which districts. In our Johannesburg district, the gang, the Varador Quartet, also known as the Varados, they operate in the same area as the fast guns, hence the continued fighting over the drug territory. And the area of the 2 mentioned gangs are interlinked due to family connections in the following areas. It's Firetown and Westbury, Eldorado Park in terms of those extensions mentioned there, Riverley, which is in our Langlaagte policing area, Boysons in terms of Bella Vista and Criswell, and lastly South Hills and Moffatview area. Both the Varador Quartet and the fast gun gang groupings operate in the Johannesburg district. When you look at the Ekurhuleni district on the next slide, also still part of pillar 1, our intelligence gathering, there are 2 groupings that is predominantly functioning there, the Vitus Locos as well as the Sour Boys, and the areas of operation is mainly in Randpark, Windmill Park, Geluksdal, which is in Sekane, and then Nigel. For many years, the Sour Boys, the Dugans, and the Terrible Serpents and Justice were locked in violent conflict over control of the drug distribution areas. These groups were also deeply involved in vehicle-related crimes and various forms of robbery. When we move on further to the Ekurhuleni district, the recent shooting in Randpark, in which 6 individuals were killed, is also linked to ongoing activity. This incident may signal the re-emergence of gang-related violence in this area. Current intelligence suggests that the Vatos Lagos, as well as the Sour Boys, were involved in the attack, and additional information has been gathered. Within the district, specifically in Randpark, the Vatos Lagos and the Sour Boys are known to be rival gangs operating in this area. Moving on to the next slide in terms of Pillar 1, the West Rand districts. It is the one umbrella gang which primarily operates in Toekomsrus on the West Rand, and the member of the Varador Quartet gang, originally born and raised in Toekomsrus, had left the area for several years, but then has returned. And upon his return, he immediately started recruiting local youths between the age of 14 to 22 with the intention of establishing a strong foothold in that area. The individual was later arrested on an unrelated matter and subsequently released on bail. Notably, the related incidents to Toekomsrus were not reported to the SAPS, limiting formal investigation follow-up. No further gang-related incidents involving this individual or the recruitment activity have been observed since May of 2025. And there's a number of mitigating actions in terms of crime intelligence that is also done to address the gang-related violence, which includes intensive interviewing, profiling, purifying of the list of repeat offenders, also a list of circulated unwanted suspects, the identification of drug outlets, cases which are withdrawn are reviewed to see the reason for withdrawal, and also priority targets for the two main gangs are identified, and they are currently part of long-term investigations conducted by intelligence. The next pillar in the 5-pillar approach speaks to proactive policing or high visibility, and there's also a number of activities that is continued to be implemented in terms of Pillar 2, our visible policing environment, which includes regular school searches, drug awareness and school safety campaigns, which are conducted in these areas, community outreach and street embizos, improved youth-related activities aimed at reducing drug abuse and gang-related activities in our children, encouraging the community to identify drug hotspots, lolly lounges, gang-infested areas, and such to counter medication to the youth, expose also problematic liquor outlets, closing after trading hours, selling liquor to minors, and allowing firearms and other dangerous weapons onto their premises. And lastly, to recruit and deploy community patrollers in all of the identified areas with the aim of enhancing visibility at drug and gang-related hotspots to reduce criminal activity. In the identified stations, there's a number of activities that has been done, and it's broken down in terms of all the stations, just to focus on the totals. In terms of community awareness programs for the period under review, and all those priority stations, 634 were done. There were 75 school campaigns. School premises that were searched was 105. There were 47 adopt-a-cop programs. Within those areas, there's 573 community patrollers and 816 Gauteng traffic wardens that are deployed. In terms of the operations, Pillar 3 of the 5-pillar approach speak to combat approach or the rapid response, where the anti-gang is primarily responsible for this pillar. Day-to-day operations for the period that they executed amounted to just over 7,200, 172 drug operations, and disruptive operations 604. Arrests were made in a number of these operations. It is highlighted in terms of the stations. It continues on the next slide, and bringing the total of arrests by the anti-gang unit for the period under review to 153. During these operations, there's also confiscations that were done, and you can see in terms of the first column or the first table on the top in terms of the drugs, over 2,700 grams of dagga, 228 grams of cat, in terms of mandrax, 587 tablets, nyaope, 6,855 grams. Ammunition also, 179 ammunitions were confiscated, with 16 pistols and revolvers, 1 rifle, and firearm parts or magazines with 3. And then at the bottom also cars and motorbikes that were confiscated, totaling 5. The anti-gang unit also then continued to visit schools in the gang-infested areas. in all of those areas. I'm not going to mention the schools, but in the Randpark policing areas, there's 2 schools that has been visited. Eldorado Park, there's 3, there's in Boysons, Langlaagte, Sophiatown, Moffatville, all these schools that have been identified as possible priority or prominent schools for gang violence have been visited by the anti-gang unit. Moving to pillar 4, in terms of our reactive approach, Chair, that refers to the detective and case management, which is the responsibility of organized crime. For the period under review, they received 7 gang-related dockets, of which 3 of those dockets went to court, 4 still under investigation. And you can see in the bottom of that, all of them were murder cases, of which 3 of those still went to the court, and 4 of those are still under investigation. Continue in terms of the following slide in terms of the stations that were involved. Sophiatown had 1 murder case that went to court. Kliptown also 1 that went to court. Randpark had 1 that went to court, 2 still under investigation, giving us the 3 that went to court, and 4 is still under investigation, all of them relating to murder cases. Also successes by the anti-gang unit in terms of the case management or the organized crime. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can see in terms of the different stations, the arrests were done. Sophiatown had the highest of 5, followed by Kliptown with 3, and Randpark with 2, giving us a total of 10 arrests in 3 of the cases, and all of them were all murder-related cases as well, where 10 arrests were made. Convictions. The PC mentioned also conviction in February for the period under review. There also a conviction that was occurred on the 3rd of 11 in the Protea court, where accused for charge of possession of firearm and ammunition was sentenced to 8 years imprisonment, which is suspended for a period of 5 years. In terms of our pillar 5, the last pillar of the 5-pillar approach relates to communication and liaison. And for this period, a total of 31 media releases and press statements were issued in respect of gang, drug, and other related successes. Moving on to the next area of concern or focus area is the human trafficking and kidnapping. Excuse me, Chair. Human trafficking is also the responsibility of the DPCI or the Hawks. And we can see in this area or in this period, they concentrated on intelligence-driven investigation, strengthened multi-agency coordination, which include victim screening and referrals, and also stepped up public awareness to deter trafficking via fraudulent job offers. Several high-priority probes were publicly acknowledged, while victim support pathways were reinforced. They also focused on intelligence-led investigation and case follow-ups, interagency cooperation and cross-border focus, victim screening and immediate support pathways, and lastly, public awareness and outreach. In terms of the docket workflow of the DPCI for the 3rd quarter, there were 30 case dockets and inquiries which were carried over from the previous period, which are still under investigation. There were 2 new case dockets received during the 3rd quarter of last year, and then 1 inquiry was finalized, and there was 1 awareness campaign conducted. In terms of human trafficking successes, I'm just going to highlight the one in terms of the 24th of October 2025. A joint operation was launched after crime intelligence provided information to the JMPD about a large group of kidnapped Ethiopian nationals being held in the Sophiatown or East Town area of Johannesburg. Officers responded to East Road, where they located and rescued 58 Ethiopian victims who were allegedly being held against their will. During the intervention, police detained 3 suspects, which include 2 Ethiopian nationals and 1 Malawian national, and recovered a replica firearm used to intimidate these victims. When we move to kidnapping, it's done by our organized crime component. They still focus on the areas as highlighted on the screen there in terms of financial investigation integration, the technology and private sector partnership using the Eyes and Ears network with Business Against Crime, also integrating CCTV, GPS and private security intelligence to locate victims, counter police impersonation tactics, victim rescue and operational outcomes in terms of rapid and visible rescue operations, including the usage of drones to enhance law enforcement credibility, and demonstrate the victim-centered approach. And lastly, hotspots and intelligence-driven deployment. There's a special team, as we indicated previously, within the organized crime that focus on specific cases. For the third quarter, this team dealt with 3 cases, which is highlighted on the screen there. 2 of these were Chinese nationals and 1 South African, where ransom amounts of 5 million for the first 2 cases and 20 million of the last cases were demanded. In terms of the status of the victim, 1 was released and 2 is still in captivity. There were no arrests made during this period. In terms of vigilantism, Chair, I'm not going to go through the definitions. We already dealt with that in previous in presentations where we had the types of vigilantism. I'll go to the cases and the case management of these cases. There were a total of 43 cases with 29 arrests. That is reflected in the tables. You'll see in terms of Ekurhuleni, the highest in Ekurhuleni were Ivory Park, with 7 cases of vigilantism relating to murder, but there were 3 arrests made. Also in Rabie Ridge at 5, and there was 1 arrest made. And then we moved to Johannesburg, a number of them at 1. In Eldorado Park, there was 1 murder, which had 4 arrests. In the Sedibeng area, Orange Farms at 1. And also in the Didier, there was 1, but the arrests were made 4 in each of those cases. And in Tshwane had the highest number of cases. Arrests have been made in Themba, 3 arrests have been made in Themba. 4 arrests were made in Themba in 2 different cases. And then in Mamelodi also 1 arrest was made. In Mabopane there was 2 cases of murder, but no arrests have been made since. Then lastly on the West Rand, Kagiso had 2 cases and Moslakeng had 2 cases. The Kagiso case was also murder, and there were 6 arrests, bringing then the total number of cases to 43 and the number of arrests to 29. Chair, the next area of focus is the second-hand good dealers and the scrapyards. Once again, I'm not dealing with all the theories in terms of the acts that were implemented. We still have the Second-Hand Goods Forum that is responsible for coordinating the following, and they continue to function in the province in terms of addressing non-compliance to the Second-Hand Goods Act in respect of registered second-hand goods dealers, also ensuring the compliance of unregistered second-hand goods dealers, and there is a number of other aspects that they deal with, also combating cable theft and other essential infrastructure-related crimes in terms of the Criminal Matters Amendment Act. The activities in terms of the second-hand good dealers over this period is reflected. In terms of awareness campaigns, there was 555, and second-hand goods control operations, there was 1,751 conducted. You'll also see at the bottom, there's a number of compliance inspections done in the different areas of the second-hand goods market. I'm not going to go through all of them that you can see, they total to 18,050 inspections that was conducted at the different types, which include antique dealers, book dealers, general dealers, panel beaters, recyclers, and the like, as I indicated, totaling up to over 18,000 inspections. In terms of cases opened, 323 by our visible policing department. There was 1 registered premise that was closed down, and there were 78 unregistered premises that was closed down in this period, and also a number of fines that has been issued in terms of this arrest that made also 338 arrests. And second-hand goods related, dealing in goods at unregistered premises with 323, and the possession or the receiving of possible stolen goods, 15 arrests were made. Looking at it from confiscations that has been done, also a number of confiscations during this period in these operations, 316 batteries, 588 copper pipe, and then you can also see in terms of fuel, milliliters, over 2 million milliliters of diesel and 20,000 milliliters of petrol, and then also a number of other items that were confiscated during these operations. In terms of our case management, there was also by the detectives operations where they registered 556 cases. Arrests were made 551 of these. 118 cases is still under investigation, and that is also from previous periods. And the total number of cases in terms of the second-hand goods that has not been finalized as yet is 1,272 still under investigation. Chair, in terms of the recovery of firearms, was an additional requirement also. Brigadier Chakalani, in her presentation, alluded to the utilization of firearms in terms of crimes. What we'll be showing in terms of this is the number of firearms that were recovered, the number of firearms that were handed in, as well as the number of firearms that were destroyed, and it was particularly requested from the beginning of the financial year. So this gives us a total from April 2025 until December 2025, which is the first 3 quarters. We can see the number of firearms recovered that were committed in crimes was 3,243. The number of firearms that were handed in by the community is 6,589, and a total of 8,356 firearms were destroyed over this period. School and health safety. We also have the ICVPS, the Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy. We know that Pillar 2 makes provision for early intervention, and there's specific campaigns and projects that are implemented. It's reflected on the screen, and it includes the Adopt a Cop program, our Junior Commissioners program, dialogue between schools, school searches that is conducted, and also then parents that are engaged in terms of parents' evenings to assist in this regard. As per the direction of our Division of Visible Policing, 26 schools actually were identified for specific intervention for this 25-26 financial year. And during Q3, there's a number of schools that were visited, and there were also specific programs that were conducted, which is reflected on the screen at the Memezela Secondary School in Shashanguve, the Sechaba Primary School in Kwatema, Bonalasedi Secondary School in Mamelodi East, the Wazino Bone Secondary School in Welbekend, Mwadwaleni Secondary School in Jabulani, and lastly the Iterele Zenzele High School in Diepsloot, where the natures of the program differed in terms of whether it was a search, whether it was talk on bullying or substance abuse, and also the date of the interventions is supplied in terms of this. Case management on school safety as well as health facilities, particularly in terms of our schools, clinics and hospitals. I just focus on the cases reported for this period. In schools, there were 313 burglaries that were reported. Attempted burglaries, there were 1. Burglaries at clinics, clinics were 39, and burglaries at hospitals were 4. So in total, 357 burglaries. Of those, 29 went to court, 174 is still under investigation, 157 is closed, is undetected. We have 28 pending in court. We had 1 guilty, and we had 5 cases withdrawn during this period. Following measures are still implemented from our detective environment and from their perspective to ensure the successful investigation of the cases at school and health facilities, and these include that the cases are monitored at station level by our detective commanders. All crime scenes are visited by the detective members. Our criminal record and crime scene management are attending to all of these scenes to gather evidence in terms of the existing directives. Arrested suspects are profiled. All exhibits found at the scene are dealt with in terms of our prescribed directives. And lastly, all statements are obtained from witnesses immediately at the crime scene as to start with the investigation. With that, I submit. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. I think we can get comments and questions. And thank you, PC and your team for the presentation. I think it was well done, and in terms of efficiency and time, we truly appreciate it and very informative. I'm going to allow members to make their comments and questions, and then we'll then get responses, and then we'll deal with the other reports that we have to deal with. I'll start with Member San.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, members. Good morning, PC and your colleagues. Through you, Chair, I must congratulate SAPS, because every time we see there's a decrease, we obviously not only have confidence, but I think it's the right direction going forward. Chair, I also want to drill down to some of the specifics. kidnapping remains a major concern for our province. PC, you and I, we have engaged very often, and thank you very much for always being there to assist. What I'm seeing that, in the increase of the kidnapping cases, Johannesburg now ranks, again, number 1. Now there's a substantial increase in Johannesburg. Can you perhaps explain to us what is the progress or interventions that are specifically Johannesburg related? That is number 1. Number 2, we also know the modus of operandi by the kidnappers, that they will send out runners. After they kidnapped a victim, they would take the bank cards, Chair, and start to go draw money from the ATMs. And that happens for a few days. Are our banks not involved? Because I see that at the second presentation that we've got engagement with business against crime. I don't know if the banks are a part of that. But certainly I think the banks would know much more information as soon as they pick up a suspicious transaction, or even if they have ATM CCTV recordings. Those certainly can lead to a lot of other information. Then, Chair, I move to illegal mining. I understand that many of the interruption or intervention operations are still on surface. In other words, our police officers are not able to go down into the ground, into the abandoned mining shafts. Have we got any other better ways of dealing with illegal mining other than just the interruption, confiscation of your pandukas, your tools, and arresting those illegal immigrant miners, the zamazamas, because we're not hitting the illegal, illicit mining industry where it hurts the most. And I'm referring to intercepting money flows, asset forfeiture unit, perhaps our South African Revenue Services also need to be playing a bigger part in terms of intercepting those illicit funds. Then we are very happy, as you said, Chair, that the President has announced that the South African Defence Force will be deployed to assist us. Can you please share with us, without compromising your operational integrity, how would the soldiers be deployed? I understand that they may be in the province, but they are certainly not on the ground yet. And the last issue on illegal mining, Chair, is that the station levels I spoke to, they are still complaining of lack of resources. So for example, Rudapur I visited recently. I was informed by the members there dealing specifically with illegal mining that they've only got 3 cars. And at a best given day, maybe 12 members dealing with not just with illegal mining, but with crime prevention in the entire district of Rudapur. So certainly a very small amount of that resource will be allocated to deal with illegal mining. And when they do deal with it, they have to get the assistance from other sister stations, maybe from JMPD and other law enforcement agencies. Have we got a plan? And more importantly, have we got a resource allocation strategy to assist those stations that we were just being presented with that suffers from illegal mining? Then I move on to gangsterism. And I'm sure Member Evans would echo a lot of things with myself here. We continue to look at those figures, but it doesn't seem that these figures are going down. In fact, I think the gangsterism is thriving in Gauteng. Again, I want to bring in the concept of where we need to hit them that will hurt the most. Gangs don't just get together to show muscle, big biceps in the pubs or on the street. There are monies involved. There's certainly benefits and financial reward in the drug dealing, prostitution. A lot of the other financial illicit funds would flow. Are we involving the other government organizations? Again, I say asset forfeiture unit, SARS, to look at those activities and where monies are generated and the way the monies are flowing. Because I believe fighting crime, especially where crimes are organized, there's always money. And if you smell the money, you follow the money, then you hit them where it hurts the most, then these operations will start to take a different shape. And I think it will become then a more manageable environment and situation. Chair, I'll stop there, but please, before I stop, PC, I really want to plead with you. I know you're doing the best with your colleagues, but kidnapping in Gauteng, it's really out of hands. You know, I know, just 2 days ago, a very young Chinese girl was taken and kidnapped. You can imagine if it was any of our daughter, our granddaughter, a 9-year-old girl now in the hands of kidnappers. I don't want to think further. I want to leave that thought with you. It's something that I think we need to feel what the families feel, ensure that our law enforcement is out there in full force, you know, not just curbing, but I think we need to completely squash this criminal practice of kidnapping our province. Thank you, Chair.
Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, honourable members and Police Commissioner Mthombeni and your colleagues for the presentation. I just want to focus on one aspect. Way back, I was in the police myself and I was involved with crime intelligence. It was very, very long ago. But it still remains a dear and a very important aspect to me. We heard in the presentation that the Gauteng SAPS crime intelligence still contributes to targeted raids against specific gangs or syndicates, and also that there's surveillance operations and support for specialized units like the Hawks. Most of the successes are tactical, but I'm not sure if they do reflect a fully functional intelligence-led policing, which would allow proactive disruption of criminal networks across the province. Syndicates are often one step ahead because intelligence structures in Gauteng are not fully operational or optimally coordinated. That's a statement that I make. And I want to ask if you would agree with me that Gauteng is arguably, as we heard and as we know, the province with the most affected by crime and also by weaknesses, possible weaknesses in crime intelligence, because it faces the highest concentration of serious and organized crime in South Africa. Are we confident that we're doing what should be done with crime intelligence, or are there still challenges as far as that's concerned?